Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. With me is Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, Angela Sinclair, and, of course, my husband, Todd Preston. Hey, everyone.
Hey. Hey, y'all. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. All right, so today we're going to be discussing megalomaniacs. Stephen Grant, the husband of Tara Lynn Grant, from season 2. And I'm going to lead off the episode with an article from psychologs.com from an article published on May 2nd, 2024. And the title of the article is called, Are You Dealing with a Megalomaniac? The word megalomaniac has its roots in the Greek word megalo, which means large. It is used to refer to a person who is megalomaniacal and has a mental disorder marked by feelings of personal greatness. We have heard of many historical figures who are often associated with megalomaniacs, like the Roman Emperor Caligula. He demanded to be worshipped as a god, and many dictators have been called megalomaniacs, with the most famous example of a megalomaniac being Hitler. Joseph Stalin, a former premier of the Soviet Union, showcased symptoms of paranoia, which is often seen in megalomaniac individuals. He had thousands executed to satisfy his desire for power and grandeur. Another example is J.B. Bokassa, a dictator of a small and extremely poor African nation. He proclaimed himself emperor of the country. He even renamed it the Central African Empire. Even democratic countries where leaders are elected have often displayed huge egos, but megalomaniac is generally used as an insult and rarely refers to real mental illness.
Chase, I'm sorry. I'm totally interrupting your flow. Please forgive me. But did you just say that there's some guy out there that he's Emperor Bukaki? Is that what just happened?
Bukasa.
We're going to make him Bukasa, Emperor Bukaki.
Sukasa Bukasa.
All right, I'm sorry. Please, continue.
Now you totally got me tripping over my tongue. But I like it.
We gotta lighten it up for the listeners. We gotta lighten it up sometimes.
Yeah, for real. What's up, Regina? What are you going to say?
Oh, just Christine, you're a total perv.
Hey, that's not perverted. She literally was saying that his name was something like Bukaki. And thought of himself as an emperor. So I was like, wait a minute.
Where is this located? Because I want to take a trip.
No, I absolutely do not want to take a trip. I will stay far, far away from there. Trust.
Trust and believe. I am not going to Bukaki.
I am so blushing right now.
All right, I'm going to be serious again. Here we go. Although some may consider the terms of megalomaniac and narcissism slightly different in shades of meaning, the terms megalomaniac and narcissist are often used interchangeably because thus far megalomania is diagnosed with a narcissistic scale of traits. Some critics and psychologists suggested that a megalomaniac differs from a narcissist as he only wishes to have the power rather than to be seen as charming, and seeks to be feared rather than just admired or loved. To this category belong many lunatics, and most of the great, air quotes there, men of history, some of which are mentioned above. One who fits these definitions of megalomania tends to believe that he or she has greater powers than any other human and has the talent and capability to use that power over a large population. Research shows power corrupts people. Like many other megalomaniac dictators, President Ilina Aliyev Azerbaijan. I don't know how to say that. Azerbaijan. Whatever. He is seen as a dictator due to the lack of free and fair elections and violations of human rights. Similarly, Donald Trump was also considered a megalomaniac based on the speeches he made during his presidency. The DSM, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, doesn't distinguish between megalomania and narcissism, but the most recent edition of the DSM-5 classifies both of these terms as a form of narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissism can be defined as an exaggerated sense of self-love, while megalomania, on the other hand, is an exaggerated sense of self-worth based on delusions of power. Therefore, all megalomaniacs are narcissists, but not all narcissists are megalomaniacs. In certain extreme cases, megalomaniacs believe that they can control the world, like in the case of dictators. They feel as though they have a right to control the people around them and delude themselves into believing that it's their destiny to rule over others. Now, what are the signs of megalomania? Megalomaniacs act without any empathy or consideration for the needs of others. They expect lavish treatment from others, demeaning and belittling others, exploiting people, delusional about power or success, self-perception of being unique, better than others, need for continual admiration from others, intense jealousy toward others, and a God syndrome, or they may believe that they are a god. A megalomaniac will also overstate his abilities in an irrational, egotistic manner, believing themselves to be exceptional and displaying self-centered behavior. Experts claim that this behavior is to narcissistic personality disorder. The development of this kind of illness may be caused by a variety of behavioral traits, childhood experiences, and the parenting style during those formative years as an individual. Megalomaniacs are unable to control their cravings. They constantly exalt themselves, generally for trivial reasons, as it is difficult to verify the reality. Put simply, they daydream. In addition, the victim is unable to value other people or their accomplishments. They won't accept the action or the ideas of another person. Furthermore, the victim cannot appreciate other people or their achievements. They devalue others and believe that they are better than them, and they won't accept the opinions or acts of others. Therefore, megalomaniacs are immature. They don't want to accept themselves or their reality. They live a deluded life in their fantasy world. Now, I know that sounds a little heavy for Stephen Grant. I'm not saying he's a complete megalomaniac, but I definitely feel like he has some of these traits. So what do you guys think?
Interesting. The episode that we're talking about, I'm not sure if he was a megalomaniac. I do think that he definitely had some narcissistic traits. But I'm coming at it from a different angle, thinking that, he kind of felt abandoned by his wife, and he was, conning the babysitter, kind of hoodwinking the babysitter to be with him out of attention-seeking behavior, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
So, yeah, I kind of agree with Christine that I wouldn't call him necessarily a megalomaniac. He definitely does have some of the characteristics. In the beginning when they met in college, he had aspirations to be a politician and never realized those dreams. So I don't know if he was really megalomaniacal or if he just had a massive inferiority complex and was trying to win over the babysitter by showing what a wonderful, loving father and husband he was and how his wife had mistreated him. That's a very narcissistic tack to take. It's always interesting to me because I feel like women are accused of sleeping their way to the top, right? They're, sleeping with the boss, sleeping with whatever, trying to improve their circumstances. But most of the time, if you think about it, men kind of sleep their way directly to the bottom. Like, they need to be with a woman if they're, especially if they're married to a woman that has a lot of power and influence in her job. They need somebody who is maybe younger and less experienced, who sort of worships them and tells them how amazing they are and feeds their ego. I think he kind of more falls into that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys on that.
Yeah, the feeding into the ego is really prime. especially because his wife was more powerful than him, and his wife afforded his delusional life. And what I mean by his delusional life is his house and the kids with the nanny all of the time, all week long, from Monday to Friday. He lived in a magical fantasy world because he really couldn't afford any of that. That was the wives. So when she came home and ripped the rug out from under him about his fantasy life with the adoration of this young nanny, attention-seeking behavior to get there, but the adoration and the masculinity of it all, she ripped the rug out from underneath him and he snapped. Like, I don't think he really planned on murdering his wife. I think that was a snap judgment. Did he orchestrate cheating on her? Yes, absolutely. But I believe that he thought he'd get away with that for a long time.
Yeah, and I think I chose the topic because, just like you guys said, like, he had aspirations to be a politician. He, for whatever reason, he couldn't, materialize that. And, working for his dad in the machine shop, part-time, having an au pair full-time. And to me, I think my brain just kind of went to, that was his fantasy world. That was the world he was trying to control because Verena, the last au pair, the one that he actually materialized some form of a relationship, she wasn't the first one. She was just the last one. So they had a few of them beforehand. So, I guess in my mind, I'm seeing like, okay, like he's playing this whole different part there. He's in his mid-30s. They're 18, 19 years old. So I think that's where initially my mind went with the megalomaniac. It might have been too big of a topic for that, but still a fun topic to talk about.
And I get that because in a way, even though he wasn't a very powerful man, he still believed himself to be. And he acted as if he was. And I think that's what precipitated the murder, was because she brought him down to reality. You can't afford any of this. None of this, none of your fantasy life actually exists.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't he say that she told him that she was leaving and taking the children and he would be homeless?
Right. And that was immediately after his sexual relationship, because at that point he had just had sex with Verena right before she came home. He just bagged a young babe, even though she was an adult. She was just barely over the adult line. And so he's like, well, screw you. Tara had said to Stephen that she was going to take the kids, he was going to be homeless, this and that. And that's because he grabbed her. She was turning to walk away because she's like, you're not telling me what to do. She's pissed. She turns to walk away. He grabs her. She turned and slapped him. And then that's when he pushed her and she fell back and hit her head. And that's when the threat came. And then at that point, he's like, psh, hands around your throat.
Yep, he lost his shit.
And he wasn't stopping. He couldn't stop. Well, it's too late now because if I let go, then not only is she going to kick me out and I'm homeless, now I'm, he's going to get slapped with assault. And then his world would come crashing down because, Verena thinks he's just this amazing, well-to-do, well-off husband. Who knows what kind of stories he was telling her.
Well, she was an au pair, so she was living with them. So he couldn't really lie too much. I mean, she was living it with them. Verena probably was assuming that he was equal to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely probably felt like he had some facade. But I was also thinking, like, as you were talking, he does kind of fit a few megalomaniac traits in the way he disposed of the body. I mean, he just kind of left it in a barrel in the garage, like, right there.
He spent 3 weeks chopping her up and...
3 weeks?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he choked her to death, drug her downstairs, threw her in the...
Oh, it was 3 weeks before they found her.
Yes,
Yeah.
It was 3... Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he had moved her several times.
Yeah, I was going to say, you did say about how he moved her a million times.
Yeah.
So technically, Todd's not that far off.
True.
He
That's
played
true.
with the remains a few times in 3 weeks.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And, I was listening to the episode today, and, I was just thinking about that. Like, okay, he dismembered her at all her articulating joints, and then he disposed of those in places, a leg here, an arm there, whatever. And he actually did throw that torso somewhere, because when he heard that police were going to do a search of that, that big park behind their home, that's when he went out and retrieved the torso.
And then put it in the can in the garage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's just bananas to me. And I don't know, I don't ever remember hearing them say that they found any of the other body parts. So, part of his plan did work, but that torso was just too big.
Mm-hmm.
Torso was just too big.
Yeah, actually, I made a mistake. He had the torso in that big, I want to say Tupperware, but that's not it, Rubbermaid.
Yeah.
That big Rubbermaid container. The Rubbermaid container with the torso, he took that and put it in his dad's shop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he threw out all the limbs and the pieces, but put the torso in the bin in his dad's place. But then he went and got it because he was worried that it was going to start to smell. Because I think he actually had it inside the building, but up kind of high.
He's not the brightest bulb in the tanning bed. I mean, I'm going to dispose of body parts in the park behind my house and store the torso. And I think you're right. I think it said something like up near, like in a crawl space, like near where the air conditioning unit was. Like, that's not going to blow all over the stench all over the entire shop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with Christine that this wasn't really planned, or if it was, he's got some really poor planning skills. All of this doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't think anybody would ever, except for this guy apparently, think that, oh yeah, I'm going to murder my partner, chop them up into tiny pieces, and then just scatter the remains around the backyard.
He must have he must have just been frantic. He didn't plan to murder this woman.
He was in panic. I think that's why they ultimately gave him second-degree murder, because it wasn't premeditated. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely all reactionary from her pulling the rug out of his fantasy world.
Yeah.
A reactionary crime.
Yeah, and I think he was all, feeling all cocky and full of himself because he just, like I mentioned, he had just finally got his conquest. And he's like, who are you?
Actually, we've talked about narcissism a lot in a lot of our podcasts. But you know what? This is one of those dangers of narcissists or narcissistic tendencies, or even as far as megalomaniacs. If you confront them with actual reality, they will most probably snap. Because you're literally turning their world upside down and pointing out to them in bold face type that they are not as important as they think they are.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's a interesting fact that I want to tell you guys. I'm going to tie this into the Robesons. So remember when, the police were like, oh, we're going to check your house and this and that. And he grabbed the dog and kind of went for a walk and borrowed a friend's car and took off up north. He went to Wilderness State Park. Wilderness State Park is a hop, skip, and a jump from Goodhart. And it was the police department in Goodhart. They're the ones who were contacted by the Michigan State Police. They were the ones who found Stephen.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, how about that?
Yep. So that was an interesting little factoid I wanted to toss your way.
Hiding out in the cold, the wilderness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were the closest.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a tracker on him.
I think at that point he wanted to get caught, honestly.
Well, he was ready to die.
Yeah, he was freezing to death.
Yeah, so he had drank a bunch of alcohol. He had a bunch of pills. He had a toy gun that he had bought. So like on his mania to get out because he knew he was busted.
Yeah.
He bought all these things. So he's like, well, if I can die first on my own, I'll do it. Or maybe he was going to do suicide by cop.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting.
It is interesting.
Since we did the Robeson story.
Yeah.
So.
Good job.
There's that little nugget.
Oh, that was an interesting little thread that ties some of our stories together. But, I mean, we do all stories that are in the mitten in the first place. So I'm sure there's going to be some kind of overlap with the cops and the state police up there, and probably a lot of our stories.
Yeah. I'd actually like to go to that Wilderness State Park. It's massive, and it's like on a clear day you can see Mackinac Bridge. It'd be cool.
That would be cool.
You should bring a density scanner with you and see how many bones you can find up at that park.
We'll just take Archie with us. He'll find anything.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like there might be a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about what you guys are saying, and I do think that he has some megalomaniac tendencies. For one, like I did read a couple of articles, and in each one it was like talking about how they live in a fantasy world. It's all about power and control. But he didn't really have that. He didn't have that control. His wife had that control. She's the one that made the money. She's the one that probably took care of the household as far as running it, hiring the au pairs and whatnot. And his way of control was, I'm going to spy on these girls and I'm going to get them to do what I want. He lived in his own fantasy world. And like you said, when she came home that night, his fantasy world was shattered. And it made him snap. And I just think it's interesting because he has a lot of narcissistic qualities. But I do think that there are some of those megalomaniac tendencies as well, just by different things that you've touched on. I don't know. That's just what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because he was in a fantasy world and it was something that he could control. And again, these girls are just over the adult age. They're 18, 19 years old, and they're from a different country. So he was definitely controlling their perception of who he was.
Right, and I'm sure that he felt very powerful, because like you said, he wanted to be a politician. That didn't pan out, but to be in that role, you kind of have to have some sort of an ego. Like you have to have a lot of self-confidence for that. He didn't necessarily have that, but yet he did. He thought these girls thought that he was all that in a bag of chips.
Yes, absolutely. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so there's the element of jealousy as well because his wife, she was the breadwinner. She was very successful. She got to travel a lot, and I think every day for him it was just a rub, It was just kind of a grind in his ribs that, okay, I'm with this person, and this person is more successful than me, and that makes me look not as important. So, and I think along with the megalomaniac, his ego mixed with the jealousy was volatile.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, I think Angela makes a good point, too, that he did live in a fantasy world. Think about it. Monday through Friday, while his wife is gone, he is the king of his castle. I mean, and as far as we know, he could have left these young girls with the impression that he was day trading or, doing some kind of something that brought money in, or that he was independently wealthy and didn't have to work. We don't know what he told them, right? But I could see, just based on the manipulation, him trying to kind of give the impression that he was more important than he actually was to that household, that family dynamic. And then, of course, she comes home on the weekend and his little bubble is burst because now he's feeling himself because he's bagged this young chick. And it didn't take 5 seconds for his wife to put him in his place and tell him, don't get it twisted. You're nothing here. And perhaps she even kind of treated him that way other times, or he felt like she did. We don't know the dynamic there. And I'm not saying that this, even if she did, it was her fault by any means. But what I'm saying is that maybe she gave him the impression that she didn't respect him or his contribution to the family.
Yeah, I like that. Right? Because, how degrading is it that you went to college, he went to university, but yet I would really like to know why he didn't succeed and to just be working part-time at your dad's place at a machine shop. And I think that was a great point, both Angela and Regina, for bringing that up because, like you said, he could say he was day trading. He could have spun any tale And these girls would just eat it up by, what do they know? They're just babe adults in the world, especially in America, from another country. What would they know? How would they catch them?
Yeah, they were just naive.
Yeah.
And he took that naivete. But I don't really think that there was anything maniacal about him. The only thing that was maniacal about him at all was his panicked mania in getting away with it after the fact, because it was reactional, definitely. But I do think that the narcissistic traits and the self-empowered delusions, I think that was just his ego trying to inflate itself. And like I said earlier, when she pulled the rug out of his fantasy land, that he wasn't going to be able to do what he wanted to do, especially now that he finally had an au pair that wasn't freaked out by the peep and tomness of it all.
Right.
Actually, giving and taking in the relationship, not like the others. They found out he was creepy and they ditched. None of the others were having sexual relationship with him. So this really was his first success. The powerhouse woman comes home and rips the rug right out from under him. And the rest is what ended up happening, because I think he snapped. And I think that's the only place that he has the mania, is what I'm saying. As far as being a megalomaniac, I think he's missing the mania. He's got the traits. Sure, he's got some traits, and we can probably inject some others, being that he wanted to be a politician, and he did have the smarts for it. He just definitely had failure to launch also. So he may have had the smarts for it. He may have even had the know-how, but he was very insecure, which, that goes along with the peeping Tom issues that he had. He was very shy and closed off. And then I think actually Verena, I think she busted him out of that shyness, that ashamedness. And then I think that's when he became emboldened and then quickly deflated thereafter. And it was a disaster.
Yeah, because, right, he was so emasculated by his powerhouse wife, right? And he was just feeling like, I'm at the bottom. She's running the world. I'm the man. I'm supposed to be running everything. And then Verena just inflated all that. Like, no. So he felt incredibly powerful, I'm thinking. And then the moment she comes home, he's like, I'm not taking this shit from you. Finally standing up to her. Because it was rough for a while there, it seems like.
Was there a show on this?
Yeah, there were a couple shows on it.
Mm-hmm. I thought maybe we saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was, I think we saw it a long time ago on Forensic Files.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, write that name down.
Yeah. But I think he was kind of, in a short-term span, kind of living a double life, too. Because he's got this wife that's providing everything, giving him the opportunity to stay home. And then when she's gone, he's able to be a different person. Mm-hmm. And then when she, like Christine said, pulling the rug, well, that's pulling his other persona away from him too. How is he going to make this fly if he's without a house and all of his comforts? How's he gonna make that happen anymore? So,
well, he really screwed it up because now he's in the big house.
Yeah, now he's got lots of friends.
Maybe he has lots of boyfriends.
Yep.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. But it was really cool because I did see it that follow-up show because it was the anniversary. So it was really cool because, the kids were 6 and 4. So it was really cool to just kind of see that they did well after, with intensive psychotherapy and all that kind of stuff, that they are healthy.
Did the kids go
adults.
With the grandparents?
The kids went with, I can't remember her name, but it was...
Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia, which was Tara's sister.
Oh, okay.
So, and they moved, because they lived in Ohio, so they were out of the state altogether.
Okay.
Which I'm sure that helped quite a bit too, but...
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. But they do still come home for the anniversary every year and do the run, and they donate the money to abused women, so I think that's pretty spectacular.
I think it's pretty cool, too. The daughter, she actually is going into psychology, and she wants to help kids who
are in those types of situations, because she said that without therapy, then she wouldn't be where she is today, and she wanted to kind of pay it forward. And I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, I do too. And it's nice to know that they are not growing up to be murderers, because I can only imagine what that would do to someone. Well, not saying that they would be murderers, but God only knows what could have happened to those kids.
I gotta say, I love those stories when I hear that people are what they are, profession-wise, because of something grand that happened in their past. You know what I mean? Like, not grand as in good, grand as in large. Like a very impactful event shaped the rest of their life. I love hearing stories like that. I just find it cool.
Yeah, me too. I love it. So what about you, Nina? Do you have some comedy relief for us?
No, not really. I mean, I don't know. I think I think we're giving him more credit. I think he was just a stupid dude. He had, like sidekick, barely third character energy. But he was unaware of how third character he was while he was bebopping in and out of everybody else's main character energy, which is why he never made it into politics. I mean, he was literally the helper in every situation. He worked for his father. He had nothing of his own. Essentially, he worked for his wife because, patriarchy and shit. So that emasculated him. And I don't know. I don't think there's anything maniacal about him. I don't even think he's narcissistic. I just think he was a loser. And when the gravy train ended after he dipped his stick in something that finally said yes, he just lost it. And he made a big mistake by killing his wife, and then he tried to cover it up, and now he's in jail. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything to this other than midlife crisis. Like he's not that smart, guys. He's just not that brilliant. Midlife crisis.
I love that synopsis.
Midlife crisis of a loser. That's what
this
is about. That's plain and simple.
He's a loser. He's always been a loser. He thought for a minute he wasn't a loser. His wife came home and reminded him he was a loser, and he killed her.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete and total sense.
And that's how you put it into layman's terms.
And that was spot on.
I just don't want people giving him credit where credit's not due. I mean, this is no Ted Bundy here, okay? He's not brilliant. He's not a mastermind. This is not one for the history books, guys. It's tragic, and I feel for these. I'm glad that the kids came out of it good. Unfortunately, his father didn't. His father ended up committing suicide because he just could not take the guilt and the shame from what his son did. So we aren't left with any casualties in the situation. So, but I don't know. I just don't want to give credit where credit isn't due. I just think he was a loser, and it just got to the point where he took it too far. I don't think he deserves any kind of notoriety at all.
Oh, well, that's a given.
For sure.
Well, I like that, and I think that's a good place to end the show.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to give this little loser any more credit.
Nope.
Cedar Grant, you're a loser.
Resting in peace. I hope his dad figured out everything up there, and
Yep.
can find some peace that wasn't his fault and wasn't his doing.
Yeah, and that's, let's talk about that for a hot second, right? Think about these poor parents of these murderers.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how awful that must be? Because you're probably, right, what does a parent do? What did I do? Where did I go wrong? How did I fail? But in reality, it doesn't have anything to do with them unless they're beating their kids or this or that.
See, I didn't murder anybody, and I know my mom thinks that all the time. Where did I go wrong?
I say that at least 4 or 5 times a day. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I could not imagine that on the scale of
I just came to the conclusion. Sorry, I just came to the conclusion a long time ago that no matter what you do as a parent, no matter how hard you try, your child is going to be on some psychiatrist's couch someday talking shit about you. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Very true.
Too true.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, I think we summed up. Well, I think Nina summed up quite quickly.
What's his face?
I didn't mean to.
No, it was
It was
perfect.
like really annoying. It was grating me. He was like super annoying. I didn't like him. He was like a couch fucker. I just couldn't. I was like, when I pictured him in my mind, I'm like, this guy's a couch fucker. I don't like it. You know? So that
He has crazy eyes.
He does
Yeah.
it, yep.
it was weird. You know.
He's bugging out.
Not even good looking.
No.
Ugh, creepy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that was a great show. Unless anybody, I don't think anybody has anything else to say about this dude.
No?
No? What about you, hun?
I think he's a loser.
Loser, couch fucker, loser.
Couch fucking loser.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us on Round Robin, and we hope you guys have a good week. So we look forward to you joining us back on Malice Monday for part 2 of Diane Newton King. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye. Have a good one.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.